Hello everyone! Welcome to another video facilitation for our course EDU 323 or Teaching Alternative Learning System. My name is Maria Christine Kadungog together with my co-discussant Saibi Bugash from Group 2 of BSED English PA. Now in today's facilitation, we will be learning on the concept of alternative learning system in 4 parts. The programs and proposals of alternative learning system, the major aspect of comparison between ALS and formal education, the basic principles and assumptions of alternative learning system, and the concept of lifelong learning and sustainable development. The first 2 parts will be taken over by my co-discussant Saidi Bugash, and the last 2 parts will be taken over by yours truly. Let's begin! Before we proceed to our discussion proper, let's have first our motivational activity.
Hi everyone, my name is Saibi Bugash, a representative from the Group 2. So for today, we will discuss about the concept of alternative learning system under Unit 3. But before we formally start, I want to welcome everyone to our virtual discussion. I hope that you are all doing well. Nelson Mandela has rightly said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. The necessity of education cannot be overstated. It is everyone's right to access education. It is the only tool or weapon that we can use to develop our capacity to the limit. That is why it is really necessary for everyone to access education, because education eradicates illiteracy, ignorance, thus helps us to change and improve the quality of our life, both economically and sociologically. Now let's move on to the discussion proper. So we have here programs and proposals on alternative learning system that are being implemented by the Department of Education. So these programs and proposals are centered specifically for the needs of everyone who want to learn basic skills like reading or writing. So the first program on ALS is the programs for illiterates, and under this is the Basic Literacy Program or BLP. So this program aims at eradicating illiteracy among out-of-school youths and adults, in extreme cases, school-aged children, by developing basic literacy skills of reading, writing, and numeracy. So this program is specifically designed for those who cannot read, write, and identify numbers. And as I have said, it aimed at eradicating illiteracy and ignorance through teaching basic literacy skills. So the next program is the program for dropouts of formal elementary and secondary levels. And under this is continuing education, accreditation, and equivalency or A&E program. So this program aimed at providing an alternative pathway of learning for out-of-school children, youth, and adults who are basically literate but who have not completed the 10 years of basic education mandated by the Philippine Constitution. So this program provides elementary and high school dropouts an opportunity to still complete their years of education without enrolling to formal education. We can say that this program is a substitute or an alternative to having formal education. The next one is the program for indigenous peoples, and under this is Indigenous Peoples Education. So this is a research and development project which aims to provide basic education support services to IP communities. So this program was specifically created in order to help our dear IP brothers and sisters to become functionally literate by teaching them basic literacy skills. For me, I can say that this program is a good turning point in our education system because education is now accessible even those in the margins of society. The next one is the program for Muslim immigrants, the Arabic language and Islamic values education and alternative learning system, or ALIVE in ALS. So this program, on the other hand, aims to first provide community-based and contextualized learning to illiterate Muslim out-of-school youths and adults who have never accessed basic education or who have prematurely dropped out from basic education system and have therefore reverted to illiteracy. Second, to provide Muslim out-of-school youth and adults continuing learning opportunities and experiences after acquiring basic literacy skills, as well as further learning in Arabic language and Islamic values. The third and last one is to provide training opportunities and certification service to Muslim out-of-school youth and adults who have acquired and developed livelihood skills and competencies and entrepreneurial capabilities. The next one is the program for hearing impairment, and under this is the alternative learning system for differently abled person. So this program is centered for those individuals who cannot attend to school or formal education due to their impairment. This program is designed specifically to meet the learning needs of those individuals through specialized approaches like sign language. The sixth program on ALS is the program for adolescents, the adolescent reproductive health. So just like other programs on ALS, this aims to give knowledge that will be useful in everyday living. But this one differs from the rest of the programs and proposals on ALS because the main goal of this one is to give awareness on adolescent reproductive health. Like for an example, how to avoid unwanted pregnancy or how to remain free from STDs and so on. Next program is the program for parents. It is an informal education which is a life skills short-term course that addresses the special needs and interests of the parents to promote pride in their work and ownership of their responsibilities as members of the family and their community. So this program is designed for parents in order to teach them certain life skills depending on their special needs and interests. This also allows parents to enrich their skills through undergoing lectures and trainings. Program for poor families. So this is a literary program that uses those literate family to help eradicate illiteracy in those poor families who cannot afford to access formal education due to financial constraints. Through this program, literate family members can help to improve and upgrade the literacy skills and improve educational opportunities of the poor family. Under this is the radio-based instruction. So this program is an alternative learning delivery mode using radio broadcast to deliver the ALS programs. As a form of distance learning, it is able to expand access to education by bringing it to where the learners are. It aims to provide learning opportunities to learners and enable them to acquire equivalency in basic education through the broadcast of lessons. Instead of the face-to-face learning, this program utilizes radio as a medium of instruction. This is perfect for those learners who have zero access to transportation. So through listening to radio, students will be able to expand their learnings wherever they are, and aside from that, they will also get equivalency in basic education. So in terms of practicality, this is a way to go. So the last program on ALS is the program for disadvantaged children. And under this is the informal education for disadvantaged children. It focuses on packaging of short-term educational activity that addresses the special needs and interests of the street and working children. It intends to use life skills, active learning approaches, or strategies aimed at developing or enhancing social, civic, aesthetic, cultural, recreational, and personal development. This program, on the other hand, is crafted for working and street children. This offers them a short-term educational activities that will address the learning needs of these children. And just like other programs on ALS, it also aimed to teach them basic literacy skills and life skills as well. So that's all for the programs and proposals on alternative learning system. Now let us proceed to the second part of this discussion, which is about the differences or comparison between ALS and formal education. So now let us talk about the learning programs of the two. So in ALS, there are two major learning programs: the Basic Education Program, or the BLP, a program for illiterates, and then the Accreditation and Equivalency Program, or the A&E Program, a program designed for high school and elementary dropouts. On the other hand, in formal education, students will have to undergo 10 years of education, 6 years in elementary and 4 years in high school. In terms of the learning place or setting, ALS is community-based, usually conducted in community learning system and barangay multi-purpose hall, whereas in formal education, learning usually takes place in schools and classrooms. ALS programs are carried out by ALS mobile teachers, community ALS implementors, instructional managers, or teachers employed by the Department of Education. On the other hand, formal education is managed by trained formal school teachers graduate in BS Ed or BE Ed. In the age of learners, there is no prescribed ages for ALS, as long as you're eager to learn. But in formal education, there is age prescription in every grade or year level. Thus, the age of entry in grade 1 is 6 years old, and the age of exit in high school is 15 years old. In terms of curriculum, ALS program focuses on 5 learning strands, and this includes the communication skills that helps learners express one's ideas and feelings verbally and non-verbally. The next one is the problem solving and critical thinking that allows learners to be able to make informed and critical decisions, to be literate in numbers, and to think scientifically. The third learning strand is the sustainable use of resources or productivity, and this will allow learners to have the ability to earn for a living, like entrepreneurship and so on. The fourth one is the development of self and sense of community self-development. So this learning strand allows learners to have paninindigan, pakikiisa, and pakikisama. The last learning strand is expanding one's world vision, and this allows learners to have knowledge, acceptance, respect, and appreciation of diversity, and have global awareness, impudence, and solidarity. Meanwhile, in formal education, there are also 5 major subjects that are taught to students, which are the English, Filipino, Science, Math, and Makabayan. In terms of the learning materials and teaching methodology, the ALS utilizes learning modules. Each module is complete in itself. It contains the description of module, objectives, learning activities, and pre- and post-tests. Modules for the basic and lower elementary level learners come with a facilitator's guide. Meanwhile, modules for advanced elementary and secondary levels were designed for self-learning. On the other hand, formal education utilizes textbooks that are teacher-centered. In order to assess the knowledge attained by the learners in alternative learning system, students are expected to pass at the end of program test, which is the assessment of basic literacy or ABL test. which happens in community learning system or in barangay multi-purpose hall. Meanwhile, in formal education, students are expected to pass the end of school year achievement test starting from grade 1 to grade 10. And this happens in classrooms. So that's it for the programs and proposals on alternative learning system and the differences between ALS and formal education.
Hello everyone, I am Maria Christine Kadungog, your second discussant for today's lesson. In the first part of the presentation, we have learned the concept of alternative learning system in terms of its programs and proposals, as well as the major aspects of comparison between ALS and formal education. This time, we will be learning the basic principles and assumptions of alternative learning system. In the first principle, learning does not only take place within the four walls of a classroom. This implies that learning is not necessarily situated in a certain physical room or area. Rather, learning occurs and progresses anywhere. Now in the second principle, teachers and schools are considered not the only sources of learning. This implies that learning, inquiry, and the sense of wonder is never affiliated according to location or from the class facilitators. Rather, learning is actually carried out by the learners themselves. Now, this supports the idea and related to our first principle that those students who don't go on actual school, who don't have the textbooks or other learning materials, can still generate insightful knowledge and information just by doing simple observation, analyzing possible occurrences surrounding them, and generating solutions to these problems or occurrences necessary for convenient learning. With the third and fourth principles stating that learning is fun with the use of active learning strategies and is considered integrative and holistic. This simply means that learning and engagement can be considered an adventure if introduced with rich and interdependent content in a manner of creativity, critical thinking skills, and resourcefulness. Now, learning in the fifth principle is enhanced when the needs, interests, and experiences of the learners are considered. This means that learning in alternative learning system also administers student-centeredness as a basic principle in the teaching learning process, ensuring that the knowledge and information is well delivered to the students according to a higher order. With the sixth and seventh principle, learning acquired outside the school system is equivalent to learning acquired in the schools. Life skills are considered the learning competencies, and functional literacy is the outcome of the life skills-based education. Learning in alternative learning system in this principle simply explains that their students are equipped according to the life and career demands, as it is exercised beginning with their teachers and their learners. Previously, we have learned that alternative learning system has its distinct learning strands, namely the basic communication skills, the scientific and critical thinking skills, the mathematical and problem-solving skills, among others, compared to formal education that has 5 major subjects, namely English, Filipino, Math, Science, and Makabayan. Learning in alternative learning system engages in a less general and practical approach among its students. Mother tongue in the 8th principle is necessary to acquire the basic literacy skills. Now, similar to formal education, alternative learning system also encourages the use of mother tongue in order to strengthen the grasping capability of their students in integrative learning. When learners or the students are encouraged to use according to their linguistic competences and performances, they get to learn productively, efficiently, and effectively. Life skills, as mentioned in the 7th principle, is best delivered with the use of the 4 A's of learning. This 4 A's stands for activity, analysis, abstraction, and application. 4 A's is the most utilized educational approach as it facilitates learning in a greater depth. Information and other concepts, both from simple to complex, are delivered in a simplified but effective manner. allowing the students to explore and develop their skills and capabilities in catering knowledge and developing higher order thinking skills. With the TED principle, the goal of basic education is functional literacy. Therefore, functional literacy is a right to all Filipinos regardless of age. This is significant in alternative learning system as it strongly advocates for inclusive education to all Filipino learners regardless of age, ethnicity, religion, or other restrictions in pursuing learning and education in the country. Now we proceed to the concept of lifelong learning and sustainable development. The UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning held a meeting to lead a discussion and examination regarding Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, in lifelong learning and its underlying possibilities and limits of education in sustainability and development. Leaders of this global organization perceive education and lifelong learning as a founding factor in achieving sustainability and development across the globe. Eventually, the United Nations has recognized the integral role of lifelong learning in ensuring and attaining sustainable development. In 2016, the agenda, in accordance to Sustainable Development 4, that comprises of 10 targets, states to ensure inclusive and equitable quality learning and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. These global leaders aim to resonate unity and realize inclusivity through equitable education and lifelong learning. In doing so, these allow the development of multicultural literacy and understanding in diversity among countries, thereby allowing the access of meaningful exchange such as knowledge and resources towards sustainability and development. This notion on lifelong learning also supported other significant deliberations such as gender equality, decent work and economic growth, health and well-being, responsible consumption and production, and climate change mitigation, making lifelong learning a catalytic element towards mass empowerment, especially in battling the barriers on basic rights. However, realizing lifelong learning has already been an existing movement among global leaders for a certain amount of time, particularly the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning, in planning and strategizing long-term development through projects and programs to address and deliver literacy, policy development, adult learning, and education worldwide. The relevance of our first 5 principles simply explicates the idea of cultivating learning regardless of location and source of information. Furthermore, this signifies to support the preferences and demands of the students in diversity, allowing them to develop the necessary skills and capabilities equivalent to formal education. To conclude, it is crucial to understand the varying demands in attaining sustainable development. That is why education requires a systematic, inclusive, and progressive examination to ensure that effectivity, growth, and success accommodates every individual with no biases, no inconclusive marginalization, and extremely no prejudice. This ends our discussion regarding the concept of alternative learning system in 4 parts. We have learned in today's video facilitation the programs and proposals of alternative learning system, the major aspect of comparison between ALS and formal education, the basic principles and assumptions of alternative learning system, and the concept of lifelong learning and sustainable development. I hope you have learned a thing or two throughout our discussion for today. And for your assessment, kindly refer to the instructions flashed on your screens. Now, submission of this output of your assessment will be on March 15, 9 p.m. via Messenger chat or DNSC email. Once again, this has been Maria Christine Kadungog together with my co-discussant, Saibi Bugash from Group 2 of BS Ed English 3A. Thank you everyone and God bless us all.